Hello, welcome back to our little shop. One of the things we decided to do when we decided to take on this channel was to dispel a few myths and wrong information that was out there. So this is an opportunity to do that. So here we go. A few months ago, I came across an interesting comment on one of the online authorities sites about vintage speakers. And they were talking about how over a period of time the cone edges having such a stiff treatment get stiff and the speaker loses efficiency. Okay, now I will agree that with over time it loses efficiency. However, I have a real problem with the whole thing about the stiff edge treatment. Many of you don't know this, but I've been a reconer since the 70s. So I've seen a lot of nonsense come and go. And the more blogs and posts and YouTube channels and other online nonsense that we have these days just makes it worse. It seems to me that a lot of the constantly regurgitated wrong information gets promoted and actually becomes considered to be truth over time. So anyway, what we're going to talk about here is, in this case, CTS 10-inch speakers out of super reverb amplifiers. It's very common. The customer brought this one in because the voice coil rattled. The speaker still works, but it made a lot of noise. So he wanted me to take care of it. So I explained to him what the story was, and we're probably going to end up doing his 3 other speakers too before it's over with. Because like I say, this is something I've seen a lot over the years. We'll point something out here first thing. The only difference in these 2 speakers are both the same CTS speakers. This one happens to be out of some of my stash that I have. The only thing I've done differently was probably when I acquired this speaker, I got rid of the screen dust cover, or it was missing, and replaced it with a different cover. Okay? Now, here's what I want to point out to you. These speakers become very inefficient for an entirely different reason. Fender, in a lot of cases, and super reverbs in particular, I've never seen a super reverb yet that the speakers did not fire backwards on. Now, this may go back to the old Jensens that worked backwards, but we'll get into that some other time. That's not important right now. Here's what we're going to talk about now. I want you to look carefully here. This is going to be very hard to see. If you notice, this cone is not level. See where everything's drawn down in? You can actually see where it's pulled down in. You probably can't see down in here, but you can also see that the suspension, spider, and everything here is pulled down the same way. What has happened is, over the years, with this speaker being pounded constantly backwards, the cone is taken on a set. Now what that has done is actually moved the voice coil out of the position it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be centered. If you look at this cone, it's a lot more flat. Okay? Where you can see this one actually tapers down, this one's flat. Also, what happens here is we run out of excursion room. This speaker will not move backwards like this one does. See that? A cone is supposed to be centered in the middle so that it goes both ways evenly. This one has to really be forced to move forward. It's kind of locked in that rear position. If I see another example of that, let's stick a battery on here and show you. You see a little movement we've got and how weak that is? Watch this one. Okay? So the efficiency of this speaker here has gone clear through the floor. Basically what happens is it's not centered and flexible to be the acoustic motor it's meant to be, so it has to work twice as hard to get anything out of it. So bass response suffers, volume suffers, all that. Now, getting back to the whole cone thing, and yes, I have visual aids. Again, they said this is because the cone treatment's stiffening. Well, guess what, guys? I have a brand new old stock cone. It's the last original cone I have in stock. This cone is the same age as any of these two. Does this look stiff and non-flexible to you? Okay, so there we go. I will show you later how this speaker turns out after I recone it. But basically that is the gist of what I wanted to explain. Someone was talking about something and didn't know what they was talking about. This is what happens a lot. And like I say, I've seen this a lot in Fenders and especially super reverbs. In between now and the time I show you the speaker that's been reconed, I'm going to do some more checking. And I'm going to see how many Fender amps I have in the shop that actually work backwards. Like I say, it could be related to the throwback from the old Jensen days where the magnet polarity was backwards on the Jensen, so they actually did fire backwards, like a JBL, if you didn't know that. So anyway, we're going to see if we can get this little fella back to life. Something else you might think, well, you know, the first thing you think of is, well, you know, you could just reverse the leads on the speaker and make them fire correctly. Well, yeah, you can do that. You may run into some trouble because I'm going to tell you, I tried it years ago. In a super reverb and a lot of other amps, you have such close proximity to the speaker frames that a lot of times transformers actually bump into the frame or ride against it. In some cases, transformers have to fit into holes in the speaker frame itself to keep them hitting. Now the problem with that is a lot of your speakers, you can see this one, this side's actually grounded to the frame. So if you reverse these polarities, then all of a sudden your frame becomes hot. If one of your transformers or chassis or something touches that, of course it's going to kill your signal. So there you go. There's a whole nother thing. Leave the phasing alone unless you're phasing to match other amplifiers or something. If you're using a multi-amp setup, don't worry about changing the phasing on the speakers. But mainly what I'm concerned about right now is this whole thing about the inefficiency and the wrong information that's out there. So, as promised, here we are back with the completed reconed speaker. I want to show you how flexible this new one is and how efficient it is. Same 9-volt battery. Okay. How much more flexible and responsive that is. So, anyway, we're going to call the customer and tell him his speaker's finished. I think he's probably got about 3 more of these he's going to want to do. So, hope that clears up a little bit of the misinformation. Just something I'd heard that I wanted to correct. So, until next time, play nice. I'll see you.